Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming.
Charlie Landing grew up in Sussex, is the founder of Best Agent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same.
So Charlie, what would be your advice for people interested in buying new builds right now?
Don't overpay. Do buy, but don't overpay. That's why I say disregard the guff. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
They may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. You cannot be in a position to make offers and have the offers accepted if you're not viewing. Just be out there viewing. Pay attention to the back of the class. If you've not been watching my videos, I did one just a couple of days ago. Disregard the guff, guys. It's late. It's 11 o'clock on a Friday night. Thank you to those of you who are here. Welcome. I've got some sadly got some alcohol-free beer tonight, but there we are. It's been a lot happened this week. I have found the whole concept and topic of house buying and researching it and looking at the market and looking at the economy and looking at what I do and advising people on what I do if I was in their situation. It's just actually really sort of taken its toll on me this week. And the main topic of this evening's discussion is what's on the bottom of the screen down there, right? This OBR economist, Professor David Miles, saying, okay, the era of massive house price increases might be over. And we'll go through that article in a moment. But I do just want to begin before we get into it. By the way, hello, everybody. Annie Anonymous, are we too late? Are you going to bed? Good night, sleep well. If we missed you, hope you catch this tomorrow or something. And Norlis, Leo, Zoran, hi guys. Hope you've all got somewhere cozy watching this with your favorite tipple or a tea or a snack or something. I wanted to start with this. Some of you may remember that last week I announced that I was now providing property search packs for people who are about to buy property, so that they can say it with their offer. If you accept my offer, I'll order the search pack today. That will accelerate the transaction. And today I got this message, which made me really happy. Hi, Charlie. I hope all is well. It's been a while. We finally found our home, and thanks to you, managed to secure it by showing the commitment of purchasing a search pack as advertised by you. We were advised by the agent that this helped the vendor accept our offer, as there were 2 identical offers submitted. So for those of you who haven't heard about this, a property search pack is a requirement of all lenders. So it's something that you will normally pay for through your conveyancing solicitor, but you don't have to. You can get them yourselves. And if you are bidding against other people and you want your offer to be accepted and you want to put your best foot forward, having your ducks in a row, like having a mortgage in principle, having your conveyance lined up, these will help. But having a property search pack at the ready where you say, if you accept my offer, I'll order the search pack today, literally accelerates the whole process by weeks. And as with this person today, it got them their offer accepted. So the link is below for those. If you you don't buy it unless you've had your offer accepted. You can if you want to, but check the link out, read on the page what you get and how it works. But it's an extra string to your bow for getting your offer accepted if you're competing with other people when you're offering. All right, guys. So I hope that's helpful. Now, I don't know how many of you have watched the 5 Fact Friday video. Let's quickly whistle through the 5 points of that really quickly, just on screen. I think it would be helpful. So number 1 was the unemployment. And what you can see on the screen there is that there was a monthly decrease on people on payroll of 136,000. This is the first fall in total payrolled employees since February 2021. So that's a big drop. And lower down the page, it also mentions, I didn't see mentioned in the news anywhere today, in February to April, the estimated number of vacancies fell by 55,000, or about 5% on the quarter. So vacancies are falling as well. So for all the people who've been saying, oh, the unemployment's not going to go up and the employment market's really strong, it has been, but it's getting much, much weaker now. All right, so that was point number one. Unemployment has fallen. Unemployment has risen. Job vacancies have fallen. Number two. Now, there was an article which the headline was quite at a glance. This is why you must always go beyond the headlines. UK insolvencies fall in brief respite for struggling firms. Oh, great. Well, UK insolvencies falling, company insolvencies falling. That's got to be good news, right? Well, so yes, it has fallen. There it is. But it was a very, very high spike last week. And if you read the whole article, it says you have to go down and down and down to get to it. But all other types of insolvency were up, in a sign that higher prices are still weighing on firms. This includes administrations, compulsory liquidations, blah, blah, blah. Weekly data from the Gazette also indicated that fallen insolvencies may be short-lived, because while the overall figures for the weekend of May the 5th were largely unchanged from a year earlier, mainly due to a fall in the appointment of liquidators who shut down businesses, appointment of administrators, right, which is earlier in the process of a failing company, who help companies unable to pay their debts to gain temporary relief from creditors, were up 125%. All right, so the chap from PwC says, these are encouraging on the surface, but we're not out of the woods yet. And so that to me is a shocking figure there. 125% rise in the appointment of administrators. That was point number two. Right, point number three. This is bizarre, this one. It's the Consumer Confidence Survey. Is that on the screen there? This is the I've linked to all of these below. Actually, no, I haven't, not all of these, sorry. The other ones I have below, but they're all on the Five Fact Friday one. And there's a survey about consumer confidence. And they're saying that the Consumer Confidence Index rose by 3 points. Okay, that sounds good. To -27. So it's still in negative territory. That's the point. You've got to be careful and not just look at the... it means it's less negative than it was, but it's still negative. Expectations for the general economic situation of the next year remaining firmly negative at -30, but higher than last May. And I just find this really weird. And there was a comment here about how households are finding more confidence in their household finances. Where is it? Can't find it now. But this is weird, because I just don't see it. I don't see any reason for there to be increasing confidence, other than the fact that perhaps the people answering this survey who don't do a lot of in-depth research have been reading headlines like Bank of England has actually increased their forecast. Biggest increase ever. And, now there's not going to be a recession. So people go, oh, not going to be a recession. Oh, great. I feel more confident then. I think it's just that. It's my only explanation for that. This is probably the biggest piece of news. This is repossessions in arrears, okay? And I won't go into, but there was 50% increase on repossessions of homes mortgaged in the first quarter of this year, and 28% increase in buy-to-let mortgage that were repossessed. Now, these are very small numbers. We're talking hundreds, not thousands, but it's a trend. It's trending upwards. And you've got to remember that this is when only 1/3 of the effect of the increase in interest rates has actually reached the market yet. So it's really complicated if you don't do this for a living to understand the timescale effects. And you just read the headline. The headlines are what's going in. You just scrolling through your phone, you see a headline, and your headline goes in. Oh, there's not going to be a recession anymore. Oh, okay, it's better. Oh, I'm confident. And this, but actually zoom out, and I think, I hesitate to say this, I just think it's looking bleaker and bleaker and bleaker. But never mind that. Let's get into some really bleak stuff, shall we? Let me just get this right on the screen. So this is the story of David Miles, who was giving a speech somewhere about the economy. Now, he's a former Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee member, and he's currently a senior economist at the Office for Budget Responsibility, which is responsible for government forecasts and checking and balancing the government forecasts. And he says that working from home and a stalling population growth and higher interest rates will shape the market. And he's taking quite a long-term view. And those forces driving house prices up are going to be much weaker, I suspect, in the next 40 years than they have been in the past 40 years, he said in a speech. If anything, this unusual age of massive rises of house prices may be nearing an end. Now, that chimes with what Alex Housing Stig says about looking into the longer-term future. I agree with that outlook, again, partly because population growth will be declining or slowing down, and demand will slow, and because I don't see any prospect of real economic growth anywhere soon. And so what I thought was worth discussing on tonight's show, and guys, give me your questions on this topic, please, on this topic, right? Any other questions you got as well, but this is the topic I really want to discuss. How would it change your buying decision if that was true? If you decided that was true? If you decided that actually house prices are going to remain pretty flat, I mean, once the falls are finished, I still think the falls are happening in the next couple of years, and after that, they're just going to remain flat for a long time, like for 40 years. What does that do to your motivation to buy a home? Does it change it? Does it make no difference? Let me know in the live chat right now. I'd love to know what you think. Because I've had a couple of thoughts about this. One of my thoughts is that if the housing market is going to stop being a source of profit for investors and speculators, then they will leave the property market and put their money elsewhere. And in doing so, could make it a less speculative environment and a safer place, a less volatile environment for people to buy their homes. And so the housing market becomes just about housing. Chirag Patel says you'd buy a smaller, cheaper home. It's interesting. Why would a lack of future price increases make you buy a smaller, cheaper home? 3-player politics says no difference, probably. Eddie Ward says people still want to buy because rents are so high. Yeah, in some places that's absolutely true. Not in all places, but some places that is true. Jose Libero says, yeah, I'm still going to buy a home. Daniel Holmes says, I do think this country is fucked for the foreseeable future. Thank you for that, Daniel. I don't disagree with you at the moment. And by the way, when I say that I don't disagree and I think the future looks bleak, it doesn't mean that I'm not hoping for something to change that. I really am. You know, if some new industry sector emerges and becomes fantastically successful and provides massive growth, and the economy picks up on the back of that, that's fantastic. I'm also going to come on in a minute to talk about Keir Starmer's comments this week. I've put a link to the video that he did, the interview. Yeah, Jimmy says, I'd rent and enjoy fixed. That's interesting, Jimmy. So what? If you didn't think your house price was going to rise steeply over the next 40 years, that would change your mind and you'd only rent. I mean, it's a big difference in life choice, isn't it? Renting versus buying. Buying is a massive commitment, not just financially, but like a real physical commitment to the property itself and maintaining the property, all that kind of stuff. Tom Rowland says, I think rises will be modest rather than flat. I expect that I will be in negative equity for a while when I buy. Well, you know, there are a lot of people still buying at the moment. And if you need a 3-player politics, I've just seen your comment. If you need a home, right, I've been putting myself in the position of younger first-time buyers and thinking to myself, what would I be doing now? What if I was buying now? What would I be doing? And I've worked out 3 things, which is that provided I was simply buying a home and it was for, if I tell you something, if I thought I would need to move again within 3 to 5 years, I don't think I'd buy now. But if I wanted to buy somewhere for longer than 5 years, then one of these three things would be the case. If I was lucky enough to be a cash buyer because I've inherited money, perhaps, I would be out there now because I want to just buy a home and have a home to live in. And I'd be viewing and looking for that ideal property that suits what I want and where the seller does a good price and makes me go, you know what, that property, that price, I'm in. I'm buying and I'm in for the long term. Cash buyer, done. Thanks very much. If I was a high deposit, low mortgage, so let's say 25% deposit or more, I would still be, and I wanted to stay for a minimum of 5 years, but probably more like 10 or more years, then I would still be out there. But I would probably be really cautious about what I paid because of the possibility of house prices falling further than 25% and finding myself in negative equity. I would accept that risk, but I'd be very, very cautious and aware of it. But if I was a less than 25% deposit buyer now, the only way in which I'd be confident to buy now is if I was really confident about my stability of my income. And if I was really comfortable with the fact that I'd be buying a property now that was likely to end up being worth a lot less than I paid for it, but I've got a home to live in, so I don't care. And it might not be a long time till it comes out of that. It might be 10 years or more. But provided, so if I had a small deposit, 5 or 10% deposit, or even 15% deposit, and I was buying now, I would be really cautious about not overpaying. I would be really looking for a bargain. I would be out there, and I would be accepting the fact that once I buy this property, I ain't moving anywhere for at least 10 years. And I only do it if I was really, really confident about being able to pay my mortgage for the duration. That's what I'd do. But if I was buying for less than 10 years with only 10% deposit, the trouble is it can snooker your life plans. If it's the non-financial stuff, it's the change in life circumstances, and then you can't move because you can't sell your property. That's the problem. Jimmy Davis asks, would I buy right now or next year? If I wasn't in any hurry, okay, it would depend on two things. If I was renting right now and my rent was expensive and I didn't like where I was living, so I don't like paying the rent, don't like where I live, I want to move somewhere else, and somewhere else came up within my budget and I was going to be staying for a long time, I'd be looking right now. But I'd be expecting it to take 6 months at least to buy somewhere, but I'd be looking right now. If I was comfortable where I lived and not in a rush to move, I would be waiting. Hi, Ben Childs, welcome. Now, do we have questions here? I can't do regional predictions, guys, I'm afraid. Sorry. Beardy Suze says, let's see what happens and go back to this video in 40 years during a live stream. Yeah, good idea. Okay, Chirag Patel says, you as the person who said you'd be buying a smaller property if you thought it was true that house prices weren't going to rise as much in the next 40 years. But you diversify into other asset classes, which means that what you're saying is you are one of those buyers that's considering your home as an investment as well as just a home. And if you don't think it's an investment, then you wouldn't buy such a big place. So would you be happy living somewhere smaller? Wouldn't you want a more comfortable home if you could afford it? Lol meerkats, I don't understand what you're saying. You're a first-time buyer and you're planning to buy a second home. Don't understand. Do we have any more questions? 3-Pair Politics says, nah, Charlie, you can't fool us. You get your rocks off from doom-mongering. I hate doom-mongering. You ask anyone that knows me, and my friends, family, people know my whole life, I'm repeatedly called one of the most cheerful people they know, one of the happiest people they know. I've got friends in London who one in particular said to me, Charlie, you're one of perhaps 5 people I know who's actually genuinely happy. I don't want there to be a gloomy future. I've got children, and at the moment, in a gloomy future, in a difficult economy, you end up having to become much more competitive to get the better jobs, the better income, whatever it might be, the better quality of life. It's horrible. And for a long time, this country was a country where if you had a decent paying job, and you worked hard, you could afford to buy a home, pay off your mortgage, and own the home for the rest of your life, have somewhere to live. That's no longer the case. It's no longer the case, and it's a really tough call. I mean, if I was in my 20s now, I would be seriously considering options about where else I could go for the quality of life, because I just don't see. I'm beginning to think that, okay, I'm Gen X. I'm 50 years old. I got to enjoy the 80s as a teenager. Oh, it was epic. Health and safety didn't really exist, so the fun police went out to stop you having fun all the time. You could smoke in airplanes and stuff. I'm not saying I wish it was still the case, but it was the 80s were, for me, a great time. I know they weren't for everybody, but the 90s. Looking back, it feels like until the last, 5 years, well, till COVID hit, I suppose, it felt like things were just going to keep on getting better and better and better and better and better and better. But that feeling's really changed now, and that would really change my outlook as if I was younger. Because if you're working hard and you got a good paying job and there's no prospect of owning a home, I mean, when you're single and you jumping around a bit and have no plans to settle down, well, that's okay. You can rent, you can be flexible, you can do stuff. But if you want to settle down and start a family, I don't know. It's actually, it's been getting me down looking at this. Now what else have we got? Let's get some more. Let's try and cheer up. Laura Marie Cole says, I hope to leave the UK by 2030 for Madeira. Ooh, nice, for a nicer life. The UK is on a downward spiral. Laura Marie, I agree. Why wait till 2030, by the way? Craffy Pay says, very tempted to move over to New Zealand, much better quality of life and work-life balance. Geopolitics not looking great either, says Kyle Kundal. Good question. The Brox says, do you see reforms on leaseholds being implemented in the next few years, or is this government guff? Short answer, I think it is political posturing ahead of an election, because sadly, even with the best one in the world, I think leasehold reform is an absolute logistical and legal nightmare. Absolute nightmare. And anything short of someone coming along and just setting fire to all the old leasehold regulations and saying, right, this is the new law and that's it. It's just, I don't even know where you'd start to actually reform that. I don't know where you'd start. You'd have to start adding more laws in to protect people, to make it more complicated. I don't know. I mean, I remember talking to a conveyancer about this recently, and he said, do not hold your breath. Do not hold your breath. LPD23 says, Charlie, would you say your prediction is taking a lot longer than anticipated? We were both expecting more blood by now. Blood? I said initially, in about August, September last year, I said 18 to 24 months. I do think it's going to take longer than that, but you've got to remember something. What's happening at the coal face today, in other words, the price of deals being agreed today, won't be reported for several months at least. So I think it's happening marginally slower than I'd expected, but only marginally, because I think that the guff givers that talk the market up they're out there persuading people, yeah, you got to buy now, you got to buy now, you got to buy, it's going to go up, it's going to go up, it's bottomed out, it's going to go up, you know. And there are a lot of people who just lambs to the slaughter going, oh, okay, we'll buy then. So it's very frustrating if you're waiting for the market to fall and you're a buyer now. I get that, especially if the economy is going to be tanking as well, because it may mean that people who are in a position to buy now won't be in a position to buy later because they maybe lost their job or their company's gone bust or something like that. So it's a really tough one. But, you know, Q3 this year, July, August, September, is when you're going to start to see a bit more blood, as you call it. And then by the end of this year, I think that's when we'll be in full swing of proper price falls, because again, everyone's sort of got over the interest rates have shot up and they're still going up. By the way, they're still going to go up. In my opinion, they will still be going up to at least 5% by the end of this year. So we haven't yet seen the worst of that. But in any event, we still have a long way to go until the more recent rate rises, and in fact the ones from last year, actually feed through to the coalface, affect the prices being agreed today, and actually get reported. That whole process is about a year. So, you know, the agents I'm talking to at the coalface are saying that it is really tough out there. And there's that big gap between asking prices of unsold properties and asking prices of sold properties that I showed you on the best agent. I've got this up here, actually. It's worth just taking another look at. Let me get this up here because it is... There we go. No, sorry. Here we go. Here we go. So, I mean, look at the scale of the differences in these prices, right? The average asking price of unsold homes in England at the moment is just under £500,000. Now, the median price is lower than that at 345, like a lot lower. That's 140 grand lower. That's 150 grand lower. It's £150,000 between the average and the median unsold asking price. Okay. Now, but this, I think these are, you see, these are the figures that Rightmove and Zoopla rely on to try and say what's happening with asking prices, right? But if those properties don't sell, those prices are absolutely meaningless, irrelevant, and shouldn't be taken into consideration. Down here, you've got the prices of properties that are having sales agreed on them, okay? And the average asking price of properties that are selling is £362,000, and the average median price is £285,000. Okay, so 285. I mean, that's much closer to the land registry's real price. So yeah, this is why I honestly think that any asking price, like unsold asking price indices, they are meaningless. They're absolutely meaningless, especially in a falling market. So no, my prediction's not taking a lot longer than I expected. But it feels like it is. I agree with you. It feels like it is. Okay, here we got a question. Our offer is from Cal B on YouTube. Our offer has been accepted, subject to contract. Congratulations. Our solicitor has raised a few concerns that could reduce the value of the house. Does this give us leverage to renegotiating the agreed price? Well, it depends on what the issues are. If they are just a few concerns, generally speaking, no. You risk having your offer rejected if you try to renegotiate this stage. But if there are real concerns that are actually can directly show you can directly affect the actual price of the house, then yes, it can be grounds for renegotiation. But I would warn you this: look up my video, by the way, of how to renegotiate when buying a home. And I explain this in detail. But basically, any renegotiation, whether it's justified or not, can and often does result in the deal falling through. So do not attempt a renegotiation unless you are prepared to lose your deal. cannot emphasize that enough. Do not initiate or attempt a renegotiation if you aren't willing to lose the deal, because you will then kick yourself off and think, do you know what, we would have paid the price we agreed. So don't chip people just to try and save a bit of money because you think you can, and then end up losing the deal wishing you hadn't. But if there's a real issue that makes you think, I'm no longer happy to pay that higher price, I'm now only happy to pay the lower price, and if they don't accept that, then I walk away, then absolutely. You say to them, I'm sorry, because of this issue that's come up, this is the new price that we're prepared to pay, and if you can't accept that, then we will walk away. But you must mean it when you say you're going to walk away. Yeah, there's loads of stuff sitting on Rightmove. There's loads of stuff sitting in the market. I mean, again, just have another look at this, guys. Look at the numbers of homes, right, that are sitting unsold compared to the number with sale agreed. It's almost quadruple the number. 576,000 homes for sale just in England. That's just England, not Scotland, not Wales, not Northern Ireland. Nearly 600,000 homes for sale unsold, and only 148,000 showing as sale agreed. During the pandemic, it was the other way around, right? So people who say that there's a supply problem, no, there isn't. There's just a pricing problem. You know, a lot of people in total denial about prices. Craffy Pay says, here in Devon, the cheaper properties are definitely selling quicker, with more expensive four-beds tending to stick around at high prices, taking long to sell. There is a lot of downsizing going on. And that is creating more competition for the lower price properties, which is horribly unfair when you think about it. People who are downsizing from larger properties into smaller ones so they can cut their bills and release some equity or whatever, reduce their mortgage payment, and in doing so, making it harder for first-time buyers to get in. Yeah, Chris says there are around 5 million to come off their fixed rate deals by 2024, according to the Daily Mail. I expect to see the economy tank as many people have less to spend in the real economy. I agree. GG says, do you really think prices will drop by 25%? Yes, I have almost no doubt. Almost no doubt. It's an almost mathematical certainty for reasons of things that are already in play, and that the property market takes a very, very long time to turn around, and all wages are shrinking despite there being a wage price spiral. Inflation is not coming down as fast as expected. Everything about the economy is getting worse, except for their predictions. Their predictions keep getting better, but the economy keeps getting worse. Oh, we're surprised. It's worse than we thought. It's literally what they said about those unemployment figures. We weren't expecting. It's all spin and guff. By the way, I've ordered a guff mask, a gas mask that I'm going to call my guff mask. I'll put it on whenever I detect some guff. Yeah, there are definitely 25% drops coming. Not on everything, not in all areas, not on all properties, but overall, on average, yes. Bardar Mar says, do I know who owns Get Agent? Yes, I do. I know the chap quite well. His name's Colby. Are they my competition? Only in one sense. So Get Agent doesn't advertise properties for sale or to let like I do on Best Agent, but they do. Get Agent's sole business is linking people up with estate agents. But in my opinion, it doesn't actually help anything. And in fact, it just makes your fee more expensive, because Get Agent charges the agent 0.25% of the sale price of your house, which is quite a lot of money. And agents tend to slap that on the fee to cover the cost of what they have to pay Get Agent. I mean, to give you an idea, Get Agent charges agents 10 times what we charge for an instruction lead. Okay, this is a very frequent question I get, but it's worth repeating every time because I think it's really helpful. Lol Meerkat says, Charlie, I have a question. When deciding how much is reasonable to knock off the asking price of a property, should I be subtracting in figures or percentage, if that makes sense? Yes, it does make sense. I understand what you're saying. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. When you are looking at a property, disregard the asking price. Disregard it. Delete. It's an irrelevant number. It's nothing more than a conversation starter. And I would never ever give a percentage, because the same property listed by two different agents would have two different prices, even though it's the same property. An overvaluing agent will sometimes overvalue by 10%. A really intelligent agent will value it just under the market. So you can never approach it with a fixed percentage off an asking price. You have to look at that specific property and how you think it compares with what else you've seen. And you have to work out what your maximum price, given your circumstances, is for that property. Now, some people, it's not about what the property's worth. It's about what it's worth to you to become the owner of that property. Not what the property's worth, what it's worth to you to become the owner of the property. So, for example, if you, for life reasons, desperately need to get into a home quick, and you've got the money, and money's not a problem, then you might do what I call is paying a certainty premium, where you find a good property, there's lots of demand for it. There are other people offering, and you just decide to bid above the rest of them because you want that property. Not necessarily because there aren't others, but because you haven't got time to wait and start again from scratch to find another one. You just want to secure that property. Okay, so this is why everyone's price, so two different people's price for the same property, two different people's offer would be different. Like, give an example, right? So if I had two people asking me what they should bid on the same property, they've both seen the property, they're both asking what they should bid. It would depend on their reasons for buying, their finances, their job security, the size of their deposit, the size of their family, their future plans. It would depend on all of those things before I could advise them on the number that's the right number for them to offer. Does that make sense? What you're offering is what it's worth for you to become the owner of that property. Does that make sense? And if it's a property you really want to live in and it's a home, you should always pay the maximum price you're comfortable paying, that you wouldn't pay higher than, to just speed up securing that property for yourself. If that makes sense. Oh, don't use online price estimates. Just, guys, they are the whole concept of online price estimates of properties exists for one reason alone, and that is for you to type your details in so that they can sell them to people. They sell your data. That is it. That's it, right? It's just never accurate, not even close. So Claire Jones, hi Claire, a new name here. Surely people invest in property to beat inflation, so property prices should go up and not down. People don't want their money to devalue. So that's a purely investment mindset, and you're totally overlooking the fact that some people just want to live in a home. And it has nothing to do with inflation. They just want to have a home to live in. Commuter branch line, I'm sorry, I don't have any insights for Northern Ireland. I can't answer that question. I don't know what's going to happen there. The last RICS survey, which if you haven't seen it, go and look at that. That's got the whole housing market broken down by regions, and Northern Ireland's got very different readings in there. So just go and Google RICS housing survey and look at the most recent one. Nick Woodward. Charlie, cash buyer, low rent. If prices are dropping more on a month-on-month equivalent, should I still wait to buy? Nick, my first response to that question would be, have you found somewhere that you want to buy? Are you viewing? Because if you haven't found somewhere you want to buy, it's a moot question anyway. And if you haven't started viewing, you're going to have to be viewing for a while till you find someone and get an offer accepted on it. So that's why I say, if you're possibly in two minds like that, you should be out viewing anyway. Does that make sense? I do want to come on to that Keir Starmer comment in a minute. So, but the questions are coming thick and fast, which is great. Tanya Coulter says you've noticed several sets of houses for sale coming up next to each other. Yes, there are lots of landlords selling up. There's plenty of news about that. Gary Blackburn. Hi, Gary. Welcome to the channel. I don't recognise your name if you're new. I pay £1,100 a month for rent in Cardiff, looking at a mortgage for £600 a month, 20 minutes up the road in the valleys, but worried about negative equity. I throw away £12,000 a year, or I jump on the ladder. My question to you, Gary, would be, where would you rather live? Ignoring the money, where would you be happier living? That's the first question I'd ask, and then I'll come on to more questions after that. Three-player politics says, Charlie, any thoughts about fixed price property? Saw a nice one with 45% discount, fixed, but it favors armed service people, and you have to. Oh yeah, sorry, that's the first. That's the home buyer scheme. Help. That's the first. I can't remember the name of it. There's a special scheme for people in the services, and either you qualify for that or you don't. The off the top of my head, from memory, the rule about that is you can buy it at a discount, but when you sell it, you're selling it at the same discount. So the market's gone up a bit. You still get the benefit, but you can't go and sell it at full market rate. Claire Jones. Claire, who are you? These are some interesting questions. Claire says, would you use purple bricks to sell your own property? You haven't watched the video I put out earlier today, clearly. No. Would you use purple bricks to sell your own property even though you're an estate agent? What is the difference between Keller Williams model and purple bricks? I see no difference. Keller Williams doesn't charge an upfront fee. Purple bricks does. That's the difference. If I was an estate, by the way, I'm not an estate agent for anyone that's new here. So my background is 23, coming up for 25 years as a supplier of technology, CRM databases, and marketing services to residential estate agents up and around the country. So I have lived and breathed and sat in hundreds of different estate agency offices all around the country, big corporates, small one-man bands, everything in between. There's nothing I don't know about how a estate agency operates, but I've never been an agent myself. But I have watched them front row seats for a living for a long time, and I have a lot of them still as clients. So I'm not an estate agent, but I'm here to share insights from behind the scenes to help you with your move. Nick, you say you're out viewing. That's fantastic. I'm glad you're out viewing. Next question is then, have you found anywhere that you want to live? Because only then does your first question make sense to discuss. Because what you'll find is if you find a property that you love, go, I love that property. I just want to live there now. You're not going to worry about waiting, because if you wait, you might not find one that's as nice, even if prices come down. Does that make sense? And just there is a value to eliminating uncertainty in life. It's very, very hard to move on with your life plans, whatever they might be, if you have a big looming uncertainty. And moving house is one of the biggest uncertainties we all face. Higher Kiobats. I'm just looking for questions, relevant questions. Anyone else got a question for me that's relevant to this topic? Otherwise, I'm going to talk about Keir Starmer. Okay, right. Let's talk about Keir Starmer. And by the way, guys, I'm going to put down there, first-time buyer or any buyer, if you're offering and you don't have a mortgage in principle, make sure you get one. Go and find an independent whole-of-market mortgage broker. If you don't have one you trust or you can't bother to find one, go to that link there, mhwc.co.uk/mortgage, and I'll put you in touch with my hand-picked whole-of-market trusted mortgage brokers. And I now have conveyancers as well. So if you haven't got a conveyancer and you need one, I have finally, it took me months to choose one that I really liked and trusted. I now have a conveyancing firm, and in fact, I'm going to get the boss of that on here and have an interview with him on the channel soon. Right. So Keir Starmer, where is this video? Share this tab. Let's just have a quick play of this.
Got landowners and developers according to how much money they can make. So we're very clear about what we're trying to achieve and why we're trying to achieve it. It's to achieve that home ownership that is so important. And I mean, when I was growing up, my dad was a toolmaker working in a factory. My mum was a nurse. We didn't have a lot of money. Sometimes we couldn't pay all of the bills, but we did have our own house with a mortgage, and that gave a sort of working class sense of security, which is very, very important to so many people across the country, and that's been shattered by this government.
So actually, what you're saying is you want to build enough houses that house prices come down. That's the thing. This is a Labour government which will have a house prices coming down rather than going up.
Oh yes, I mean at the moment one of the reasons that
There you are. Oh yes, he wants house prices to come down. By the way, if you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter, because that's where I post the most on a daily basis, right? That's where I interact with people the most as well. Moving_Charlie is my Twitter handle, or just search for Moving Home with Charlie, you'll find me. But I've got a tweet pinned to my profile about making housing the deciding factor at the next election. And it's been pinned there for a few months, and it's coming up on 90,000 views. And I'm beginning to see evidence that actually housing is becoming a major factor in the election, which is good. But when I sit here and think to myself, who would I vote for? I mean, it's a crap choice, isn't it? I honestly think that the Tories have done the worst job of governing of any government I can remember in my lifetime. In the last 10 years, they've just completely ballsed it up. They're just basic competence. They've become so carried away with their own internal stuff and personal battles and competition and change. And then here we are with an unelected, almost billionaire leader who I was impressed with as Chancellor. I thought he was a really good Chancellor. I genuinely thought he was a great Chancellor. Don't like him as a Prime Minister. Would I vote for Keir Starmer, Labour? I mean, on the basis of what he's saying, that sounds great. He says he's going to change planning laws and make it easier to build more houses, and that's good. But the problem is, I don't trust him to deliver any more than I trust the Tories to deliver at the moment. I mean, because they don't have any concrete plans. This is exactly what we will. This is how we will be sure to deliver, right? There's no meat on the bones of that at all. But if they came out with something and said, we're not going to let anything get in our way, we are going to make sure that working people can afford a home to live in. If I was Keir Starmer, that would be my election promise. Everything else is second place to that. I will make sure everyone who's working can afford a decent home. People, if he could deliver that, people would stop worrying so much about immigration, which, by the way, immigration is such a massive topic. When you look at how much money the overseas students are bringing in and paying, it's more than we make selling arms. It's like £19 billion a year. And the unspoken truth that the government won't admit is that we can't afford to stop them because they're bringing in so much money and they're paying really high tuition fees and they're just basically propping up the economy. I mean, it's a big, big, big chunk of money. So at the moment, just coming back to the fact we've got an election looming is also something that also affects the housing market, because in the lead up to an election, people stop because of the increased uncertainty. People stop moving. Yeah. So if I was the leader of any party, I would be saying nothing but, we're going to make sure everyone has somewhere they can afford to live. We're going to make sure everyone has somewhere they can afford to live. We're going to make sure everyone has somewhere they can afford to live. And we'll do whatever it takes. We will not stop. We will change the laws. We'll change the rules. That's what we're going to do. Whatever it takes, that's what we're going to do. It's not a detailed promise. Three-player politics says, to be fair, it's too far out from the election to be making detailed promises. No, I don't agree with that. If it's a fundamental election manifesto promise, then if you want me to take you seriously, Show me that you've actually thought through how to deliver it. Otherwise, it's just cheap guff. It's just talk is cheap. Yeah, that's a fair point, Visual Ghoul. I think the reason that I think Sunak was a good Chancellor is because he was decisive. He did stuff, and actually that created a sense of stability and calm. I don't care what government is in power if they actually get shit done. What I cannot deal with and what frustrates me so much is just stagnation, where all they do is argue and argue and argue and nothing gets done. And that's what we normally have, right? So that's the only reason I thought he was quite an impressive Chancellor. He just got stuff done. I mean, I'm not saying it was good for the country or bad for the country. He got stuff done. Kyle, will housing fall substantially? Do you mean house prices fall substantially before the non-moving effect of the election? Well, they're going to overlap. I mean, there are so many things affecting house prices, and there's no visibility of it. That's why I'm doing this best agent home price. I'm calling it a home price index, right? Not home price index. Just differentiate it slightly. We've got to track those median rates and see what they do. And I'm trying to track it weekly. It's a huge amount of data to crunch all the time. Costs a lot of money to do it. But I don't know. We'll have to see. Now, I would just, when it comes to politicians, I would choose a competent, functioning government that, even if I didn't like their policies, over a party that I like their policies, but they can't actually deliver anything. Any kind of change is progress. I would rather be having changes implemented that aren't the ones I wanted than no changes. I just think as a country, that's better for us. Just to play devil's advocate, if a government can lower house prices, can they also prop them up? That's a very good question. So governments can't lower house prices. There are certain levers that they can pull that have an influence on it. But, Keir Starmer can no more force house prices down than the Tory party can force them up. Yes, you can do things like provide cheap government guaranteed loans and stuff, which I think they're going to do anyway. But if he thinks that he's going to be able to force house builders, because he goes on in that interview to say, we'll make it easier, we'll make sure they build lots more homes until prices come down. Well, if you're the managing director or the finance director of a house builder, you're going to go, sorry, mate, we're not going to build so many houses that the prices come down. And this is what worries me about Labour not being a party that understands business. It just doesn't. I mean, it was in my mind a foolish, naive thing to say. Keir Starmer is a barrister, a lawyer. He's not, to my knowledge, ever been a businessman. And what he said was, from a business point of view, hopelessly naive. The only way that a government could bring house prices down reliably and sustainably is if the government decided that it was going to build and compete with the private sector. We, the government, are going to build modern, high-quality homes, and we're going to build so many of them that we're going to rent some, we're going to sell some, we're going to build so many, we'll have enough to do both, and so we're going to compete in the marketplace. That's the only way they could do it, and that's what they should do. The problem now with that plan is that because of how long it takes to go from deciding to build homes to actually having homes built that people can move into, it's a good 4 to 5 years with all the red tape at the moment. If our population growth is starting to flatten off and we've got a large demographic bulge of elderly people dying out, then we don't need so many houses, and the housing pressure starts to ease off naturally anyway. Which is one of the reasons why people think long-term house prices aren't going to keep rising, because the population is not going to keep growing at the rate that it is. I do agree with that. Nikki Nike says the country is buggered in all sorts of ways, got there by being conned to use the ballot box. Without a radical new system, nothing will change. Without a radical new system, nothing will change. That I agree with. But to those of you who said that because you don't believe in the political system right now, you don't vote. I think you're playing to the hands of the technocrats when you do that. There genuinely is the power to change who's representing us in Parliament and lawmaking at a local level. With a very small change in turnout, the margins are always quite small in those wins. It doesn't take much to change the seat. And I strongly disagree with people who say that not voting is an effective protest. It isn't. It actually strengthens the current system when you do that. The only way to get the system changed, other than a bloody revolution, is to vote in a party that wants to change it. Tom G, bad policies better than no policies? I'm just saying that change is better than no change. That's a good point. Amy M says government can also impose compulsory purchase orders to penalise land banking. No need to compete with the private sector when you can simply regulate it. That's a fair point. All hail Lord Buckethead, says Carl Kundal. Who's Lord Buckethead? It sounds like, is that someone from Blackadder? Right, guys, I'm going to start wrapping this up. It's very late. It's approaching midnight. I'm tired. I hope that's been a good one for you. Please remember, make sure if you're buying or moving, you've got your mortgage and principal lined up, you've got your conveyancer lined up, and you've got your search pack ready to buy if your offer is accepted. Always go out and choose whoever you're happy with choosing. Independent or whole of market mortgage brokers. Don't do anything else other than that. It just doesn't make any sense, especially in this market. An independent whole of market mortgage broker. There are lots of them. One that you trust when you talk to them. A conveyancer that you talk to and like the sound of, and a conveyancer where they say you'll have the same point of contact throughout the process. That's what you want from a conveyancer. That's what I've got from the ones that we're working with. And your search pack's ready to buy, which is just via the MHWC website, so that you can say, if my offer is accepted, I'll order my search pack today, which gives us a 4-week head start on the typical time. So you can get any or all of those things on that page, mhwc.co.uk/allmyducks, or just the /mortgage for the mortgage, /conveyancing for the conveyancing, or /property-packs for the property packs. Only if you can't find someone that you like yourself, right? I'm here as a backup for those of you who either can't be bothered to find them yourself or have looked and have struggled to find someone that you like, all right? But always go and make your own choice. But I'm here as a backup if you haven't got time to make your own choice. And if you do have those 3 things lined up, you will get your offer accepted, more likely to get your offer accepted. Yes, the robot massage. That's a comment from my Public Bricks video. That was funny. I watched it back. Right, guys. John Old, very funny. Dubai, but don't overpay. Quite right. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much indeed. There's going to be a lot more coming. I've got some plans to try and step the game up on this channel a bit, which I'm hoping you're going to enjoy. So I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Have a great night. Sleep well. See you on the next one. Bye bye.